I have an idea. Now, this one's gonna get a bit technical, so bear with me a moment. To start, we have to go back 5 episodes to when I first killed the dragon. Or rather, when the dragon first killed me. No, not like this. That was not meant to happen. Something about this clip has been eating at me. Not just because I died, but rather because of what I missed. Did you see it? That was not meant to happen. That's right. Where did the flying machine go? It was there when I died, but when I came back it was just a pile of items. So, how did it break? The answer is a rather obscure Minecraft mechanic that I think we can use to our advantage. You see, to keep the player safe, the game removes an area around the spawn pad here in the end. But the blocks don't just get deleted, they actually break and drop their items. And this realization is huge. Breaking blocks in Minecraft is somewhat of a mixed problem. The simple answer is to use TNT, but that either comes at the cost of resources to craft TNT, or the ethical dilemma of duplicating it. And to make my stance perfectly clear, I am strictly against duplicating TNT and items. So that brings me to my main question. Can we use this obscure end portal mechanic to break blocks automatically? And after some thought, I think we can. Hello everyone, my name is Meta, and in this episode, we're gonna start thinking with portals. Alright, now let's do a little bit of science before we get started. Okay, start off by making this platform just a little bit bigger for us. That way we're not gonna worry about falling off the edge or anything while we're out here. And we don't need that anymore. Alright, so this is the spawn pad we have to work with. It's a 5x5x3 area. Now, my theory is anytime a player comes through here, it should clear out the blocks in this area behind us. But I'm not sure how it does that. So in this funny little block game, different blocks break differently. So I had a few to try out here. So my thought is we can take half of each of these that I grabbed, and just kind of see how each of them break. So we'll start off with an easy one. The end stone that would have been here before. I've already found the eye, thank you very much. And I think the easiest place to start with is the block that would naturally be here already. So I'll just create a little 2x2 cube there. Now, I'll also create a little 2x2 cube of stone over here. Curious how this is going to break. We'll do the same for gravel. And let's just go ahead and make a little cross with the grass. And going through here, we should go back to our spawn point. Now, when we go back through the portal here, all the blocks we just placed should break. But I want to keep track of that. So let's go ahead and just grab a regular barrel or something out of our redstone chest over here. Throw back all the blocks we're not going to have. Block off our inventory with something else. And head on back through. Okay, looks like everything on this side broke. Taking a look at everything, looks like our grass became dirt, stone became cobble, and stone broke itself. And gravel was split between being flint and gravel. Interesting. Let's go ahead and pick these up now. And put them back in our chest to compare results. So, the end stone was end stone, stone, and gravel's a weird one here where it also became flint. Now let's do another test. So far, when things break, it looks like we're getting the regular item drops, including some of the RNG. And for the grass and the stone, it looks like we're not getting a silk touch effect or anything with that. So what I think should happen over here, the leaves should drop a stick, sapling, and for the oak, maybe an apple. The melon blocks should become melon slices. Clay should drop clay balls. And I'm really curious about the pottery shard. If we break it with our hand, normally we get the whole thing back. And if you break it with a regular axe, it ends up shattering into a bunch of pieces. So I'm curious how this one's gonna go. Oops. So I'll do the same thing. Fly on back. Dive through the portal, up into this one, and everything breaks here. Okay. So the clay became clay balls, the leaves did drop an apple, the pot did drop another pot, and melon wedges were still the wedges. Now let's go ahead and put an arrow in between here to show us what we had originally on the left and what we're going to get on the right. Now for the last test, we got redstone, cobwebs, obsidian, and a single piece of ancient debris. So we'll see what the cobwebs do, place a few obsidian, one ancient debris, and a bunch of redstone. This is probably the weirdest looking one of all. Dive through the portal, run up the bed, and this one's actually a little bit interesting. Okay. So the cobwebs gave us string. That one's kind of to be expected. Redstone just kind of broke off and was redstone. This is the one I was not expecting. See, the obsidian here is blast resistant, so we can't normally get this with TNT. And as far as I know, a wither cage is just about the only other thing you can use to break obsidian automatically. So that's a neat finding. And of course, the ancient debris also falls into the blast resistance category, but I doubt we're mining any automatically out here. Alright, so to finalize our results, this is what we end up with. I only had the one ancient debris, but I did get it back. Everything else kind of breaks as I'd expect. So in summary, it looks like the block breaking follows a couple of simple rules. And I think I can best summarize it this way. The items break as if the player was mining them with the correct tool, without any enchantments or modifications. So obviously, we're not getting any fortune and silk touch effects, but we do still get RNG drops as well. And I say the correct tool because I'm pretty sure obsidian doesn't drop anything unless you're mining it with a diamond pickaxe. I'll also note that the decorated pot did not break into its different shards. But at the same time, because I can just place it and break it with my hand, I guess that kind of counts as the correct tool as well. The axe is just an alternate way to break it. Alright, and the last thing I want to try is filling up this entire area. Ooh, pretty. And this is to put my last theory to the test. The reason why I think this mechanic exists in the first place. Without the block breaking mechanic, when the player comes through to the end, they'd be met with this solid endstone wall. I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, I can't exactly breathe through endstone. So when the player comes through the end portal, I think that triggers all of these blocks here to break, so that the player doesn't die. So let's go test that. There we go. There's all our endstone items. And we didn't even take any damage. Well, not any damage from the endstone. But I still have one more theory left to test. Does this actually require me to go through the portal? And that leads me to this lovely little box right here. You see, I'm questioning if Mojang handles the player going through the portal any differently than just a regular entity. And when thinking about the portals, there is a few things about nether portals that I might want to consider here too. You see, I know when an item goes through the nether portal, it's going to load the other side for about 15 seconds. And this is actually how chunk loaders used to be created. You see, you just gotta throw an item into the nether portal, wait a few seconds, and have a return circuit that throws the item back through. And this is because an entity going through a nether portal will load the chunks on the other side for about 15 seconds. But I'm not sure if that's for just nether portals. So I'm curious if that chunk loading behavior also applies to our end portal. And if it does it still maintain the block breaking mechanic? And that's a long-winded way for me to say I'm just gonna make a clock. I just realized that the nether portal texture moves with my crosshair. Why is this not working? Oh. There we go. That's a really slow clock. I'll just grab a piece of glass to go here to make sure that nothing lands on the side. And I guess put a couple of items in the dropper. We'll see what comes out on the other side. And nothing. And honestly, I kind of expected that. I don't think the chunks are loaded on the other side anymore. Now, there might have been a 10 or 15 second window that they were when I came through, but after I've left, there's nothing to keep the overworld loaded. And there's no need for the game to either. So an item clock by itself isn't going to be enough. So back through we go. Grab a little more glass. And I can still get in the portal on this side. But now we got one other thing we gotta deal with. How do we load the chunks here? Now, I know I said we could use nether portals, but I don't want to set something like that up. I want something a little simpler if possible. And I think there is something else we can do. So let's make a little water source over here. Oh, I forgot the soul sand. I had to run back home to get it. Fortunately, the end's not too far away. Alright, so now we need to make a chunk loader. First, we'll try and figure out what chunk this is in, which is pretty easy with F3 and G, and, well, judging by the blue box outline, it looks like the whole portal's in the chunk already. And I might have nailed this on the first try. I don't usually get that lucky. And that should be good for us. Looks like we only need to load this one chunk. And to make a chunk loader, I'm just going to go ahead and dig down a few blocks here. I wanted blocks, not tunnel. But this is fine. We'll put some soul sand here. And we'll use soul sand for the rest of it. Doesn't have to be pretty. And now we'll go ahead and place water at the bottom here until we build up a bubble column. And the last thing we need here is just an ender pearl right in the middle. And while it doesn't look like much, that is now a chunk loader. In one of the recent Minecraft updates, Mojang changed the behavior of ender pearls a little bit. Now, a flying ender pearl has the ability to load unloaded chunks. This makes it super useful to throw a pearl a long distance, and it will load the chunks across its entire journey. But this one's not going anywhere anytime soon. You see, this pearl is just going to load this one chunk. I don't want that. Or that. Or that. Cool. And now that we got our ender pearl stasis chamber here, this chunk should be loaded on the overworld side. So now, if I turn on this timer again, just jump on through, the overworld should still be loaded, the timer should still be running, and we should get an item to come right on through. Okay, so if I placed a couple blocks here real quick... Oh, that soul sand had a really cool sound. Ooh, that's cool. But that actually already proves our point. If we can place blocks in here, when an item comes through, they'll get broken. No TNT needed. Now that we better understand the base mechanics here, let's think on it a little bit and see if we can come up with something. And while we're thinking about what we can do next, there's a few more things I want to show you guys over here. In the background, I've been working on expanding out the lava production we have over here, and this is going to be fueling our new mini super smelter. And don't worry, it's not just the 3 on the front here. Let me show you behind the scenes a little bit. So here, we got a pretty simple furnace array with 8 furnaces. Minecarts are running on the top with the fuel and items to smelt, and a line of hoppers to bring it back to the front chest over here. And for our fuel source, we're actually just going to be using our lava buckets mostly. Lava buckets smelt 100 items, and it's a pretty simple fuel source to get. And the way this works is pretty simple. We put our input items up in the top here, we put our fuel, in this case our lava buckets, over in this chest, and the 2 hopper minecarts pull everything out of those pretty quick. That then moves everything along the furnace arrays, and then as items come out, we get everything returned here, including the empty buckets for the fuel. From the back here, you can kind of get a better view at the minecarts running back and forth across the top. Looking at the redstone here, this is the same clock we were using for our item dropper at the end portal. Not anything too fancy, but it works alright. And of course, this is still the same backrooms area that connects up over here with our XP and enchanting area, our nether portal, and our mineshaft. And of course, our happy ghast. And continuing on this way, I've already started mining out a little bit more space here that connects up to the large cliffside and cave we have back behind the house. This little back area has kind of become our de facto functional area. And I have an idea for something we can put right here. Alright, and this contraption's a little bit weird. I call it the Decisive Indecisive Machine. Or maybe the Indecision Decider. Okay, I'm still workshopping the name. But all this really is a giant item randomizer. On the top here, we have an activator rail. This is going to hold a bunch of hopper minecarts, where we have a double chest right above them here. On the side here, we have a simple 2-tall dropper item elevator that will bring items back up and return them to the top. When the activator rail is locked, the hopper minecarts aren't going to take anything out of the chest, so everything stays up at the top. When we depower the activator rail for a split second, all the hopper minecarts are going to pull everything out of the chest instantly. And with the minecarts in between these 2 hoppers, this will feed everything into the elevator at 2 times hopper speed, which will then put everything back up in the chest. Going to the bottom here, we have one sneaky hopper out the back. This is going to try and pull an item out of the back hopper real quick too. But because this redstone is powered, this hopper in the back is going to be locked. When we want to activate this, all we got to do is right-click the note block, and the redstone will flash for 2 ticks. This allows the hopper to pull out one item from above it, and feed it directly into the dispenser. Now, when the line powers back on, the dispenser will fire that item out. The rest of the items will feed through these 2 hoppers, and go back up the elevator into the chest above. So this will spit out one item, and then randomize the rest. Kind of like a card shuffler. But now the final thing we need to do is place in all these hopper minecarts, so I'm just going to kind of point at the bottom corner of the rail down here, place one in, open my inventory, get a few more, shift back down. I should be able to keep placing them right in here. There we go, that should be all 8 minecarts. But if we take a quick look at the hitboxes, these are actually fully within the 1 block here, so this second hopper's not going to feed anything in. And that's not necessarily a problem, but it means the randomization is only happening at 1x hopper speed instead of 2. So if we jump down on in here, kind of nudge the minecarts to the side, jump back out, now the hitbox is actually in between both of the hoppers, so that should give us the 2x speed we want. And of course, the last thing to do here is place a chest on top, and this is where our random items are going to go. Or should I say, our decisions. Alright, this seems like a good first collection of tasks for this machine, and we can always add a few more as we go along. So the way this works is if I hit the button over here, this is going to randomly pull everything out of the chest instantly, and then they'll get randomized as they come back up. But you'll notice that there's one that is missing. And that's because it is trapped in this hopper here, ready to go. So the next time we hit the button, what's going to happen is it's going to spit out that task, which is to go mine diamonds. We'll pick another one randomly, the terraforming, and then the others will get randomly shuffled up here too. Now, let's say we've already gone and mined some diamonds. We can go ahead and put that back up in the barrel here. And it'll get dispensed right back up into the top, and it'll be the last one in there. And of course, these are getting randomized every cycle. But that's the gist of how this works. If we hit the note block really quickly and then open the chest, you'll see that all the notes immediately disappear. And then they start to fill back in as they get randomized. And of course, we got our 1, which we have to then return back here when we're done. And the other's now waiting in this hopper in the back. Alright, now we just gotta frame this back in. Alright, that's the machine all ready to go. So here's a quick rundown on why I made this machine. If you're like me, sometimes I'll get 10 to 20 minutes to play Minecraft, and I don't always know what to do. So in times like that where I can't decide, this machine can do it for me. So let's go ahead and give it a spin. Let's see what we're going to be doing next this episode. Huh. What am I supposed to do with that? Actually, I think I know just the thing. And that has to do with this open fields over here. But not from this view. But actually this one over here. Hey little guy, haven't seen you in a while. You see, it was this spot in this view that I decided 10 episodes ago, this is where I wanted my home to be. There was just something about this cliffside here that caught my eye. I don't know if it was the river running through here or the canyon on the side, but something about this place made me say this is where I want to be. And I think we've done pretty good. We got our starting mine shaft over there, our portal, little pathway down to the greenhouse, and of course our starting house. That looks really strange when the signs don't render in. And as the sun sets behind the mountain, I know there's something I want right here. Now, I've mentioned before that I still have plans for this cliffside over here as well. Eventually, I want to have a waterfall that cascades down over here into this big pool of water and leads out towards the ocean over there. And on either side of the waterfall, have a couple of arches that cut into the mountainside. And while I know what's going to be behind that mountain, you guys are going to have to wait and see. But that's just a general plan, and that can all change. But even with all that, there's still one thing I want to put over here, and I think it is a little piece of old school cool. I've been playing Minecraft for almost 15 years. There's a lot of different things I've done in this game, but a few things I still haven't. One of the things I miss about the early days of Minecraft is when we'd all just build random pixel art things, or art sculptures, and statues, and all that kind of fun and colorful stuff. And part of what made that feel super special is getting to share that all with friends. I'd have a blast whenever I'd go to someone else's base and see the work they've done, the sculptures they've created, and it doesn't just feel like a dirt house or a pile of blocks, it feels like a home. And one of my favorite things I've seen in other people's bases is a statue of themselves. It's just a great way to say, welcome to my area, this is my domain. And whenever I look out on this cliffside over here, I just get that feeling of, this is where I live. So yeah, I think one of the best old school things you can do is just build a statue of yourself as a definitive statement of, this is my land. Oh no, now there's two of me. Jokes aside, I think this one came out pretty well. This is something I've wanted to make for a really long time, but there just hasn't been a good maroon color for quite a while. Nether brick has definitely been the closest color to match my Minecraft skin, and netherrack was always an option too. But I've always needed something in between the two colors to kind of blend the transition. And honestly, I think this cherry log fits in really well. And of course, shout out to terracotta and concrete to get the rest of the colors right. And despite this being something I've wanted to do for a long time, there's just something super nostalgic about this pose with a Minecraft avatar holding a pickaxe. I've pretty much only played the Java edition, but I'm pretty sure that's the iconic console edition pose too. And of course, coming back over here to our original viewing spot, we have our new statue over here, tower on our house there, and that kind of just frames in this entire area here, both what we've worked on and what we haven't started yet. But yeah, watching the sunset one more time. Pretty happy with how this one came out. And we get a pretty nice view of it coming out the front of our house. And from the enchanting area, it just peeks out right here too. But I think my favorite view of it has to be from this little canyon right here. As we fly on through, just reveals itself right there, and oh my gosh, that's awesome. Plus, this is a pretty good use of diamonds if I do say so myself. But I think that's enough of this for right now. And, of course, none of these tasks are ever truly complete until we come and put it back when we're done. I think I got time for one more, so let's see what else we get. Ah. Well, I know what we can do with that one. That'll bring us right back to where we started. Back over here. So I've been doing some thinking about this end portal mechanic, and I honestly think we can make any kind of block-breaking farm we want. Whenever thinking about farms that break blocks in Minecraft, the first one that always comes to mind is a cobblestone farm. Which is pretty fitting, seeing as the endstone is just cobblestone in negative. So let's dig out some space here, and see what we can come up with. Cool, we got some space cleared out around here, and I think we can start planning out a cobblestone farm. And I say cobblestone farm because that's what we're going to be building today, but I would like to leave the spawn pad open so we can make future farms and other things out here that need to break blocks. So I guess the general idea is we'll make some sort of cobblestone farm on the left side over here. On the back, maybe some water streams that push the items forward this way. And then maybe a water stream channel here that the items fall into. That should leave the side open for any other blocks that want to get pushed in as well. Plus, we can always push items in from the top. So I think the way this will work is we'll want to make sure that we have our cobblestone come in from this line here. Just use some endstone to space that off. So somehow we want cobblestone to be pushed in this direction. And we're going to need some supplies for this, so let's go ahead and get our redstone box ready as well. On the backside here, I think I just want to have a water stream feed on through. We'll block this side off temporarily. And then if I have the water sources here, I think the flowing water should go across the top of the pad as well. That way as blocks are pushed on, they'll break, the water will then be free to flow to the end. I think that should push everything off there. Okay, so obviously we want some cobblestone to be generated on this line and pushed forward into the spawn chamber. So that means I'm going to need some pistons on a back row here. So let's start by putting our pistons facing this way, which will push the cobblestone into the spawn pad. Now I would ideally want cobblestone to generate here, but that means I'd have to have one side with lava coming in, and the only other way for water to get in here would be from the sides. Now, if I did that, that runs the risk of the water only going part way through before this one turns to cobblestone, and then preventing water from getting to the rest of these. But what we could do is generate the cobblestone on this layer, and then we just need water on one side and lava on the other. Case in here where the lava will go. And then to keep the water safe, I'm going to use a little bit of a trick here by throwing in some oak leaves. We can waterlog the leaves, so when the lava flows and touches the leaf block, then it actually turns into cobblestone as well. Now all we need is a way to take the cobblestone that is up above us and pull it down. And that brings us right back to our little scaffolding here. So we can go ahead and place a downwards facing sticky piston. And we just kind of place them like this in crouch mode. If I pop out, I know I'm going to fall into the void. The void's a little pretty though. But we'll just kind of sneak our way back out. And I think this is pretty much our side profile. So the cobblestone will be generated up here, pulled down with the sticky piston, and the regular piston will just push it out into the pad. And then over here, fun science and trickery happens and the blocks break. Water should then push those down over here, and then we'll figure out what our storage or collection system will look like afterwards. But now we just gotta wire this up. I think what I'm gonna do is try and use a target block out the side here, so that we can run a path of redstone dust along here. This way it'll actually feed into the block. And if we put torches over here, these pistons will always be extended outwards, which is basically what we want. With the top of the piston here, the lava can flow across, make cobblestone, and then it's ready to pull down. Now that should be the bottom half taken care of. Power it, everything goes down. Unpower it, goes back up. I can do something similar for the top row of pistons over here. We'll just run some dust on top. Now we just gotta figure out how to time it. So if I power the bottom line, that retracts the sticky pistons. And then I'll want to power the top pistons to push out. Depower these. Repower those. I think I have some space to work with here, so let's see what we can make. Alright, so we got the repeater that powers into this block, inverts these torches, which just uses these torches for another 2 ticks of delay. So this should essentially power the bottom, then power the top, depower the bottom, and that should cause our pistons to alternate like this. And now we just need to hook this up to some sort of timer or circuit. I always forget to invert the comparators. So this is our on and off switch for the little clock circuit we have here. So when we turn on the lever, the comparator will read signal strength 15 from the block, and then power the repeater. This will take 8 ticks to come back around and power this repeater. Once this repeater powers this line of redstone, this will put in a signal strength of 15 on the side, And comparing these two, the comparator will turn off. This will then turn off these two repeaters. We'll come back to this one again. Oh, now its signal strength is 0. Sees 15 here, the comparator turns on. And it will repeat this in a loop. Now, whenever this back row of redstone powers, this will put in a 1-tick pulse into this block and hard power it, which will then extend the piston that's underneath it. Now, when this block is powered, it will also power this repeater for 2 ticks. That 2-tick pulse feeds into this block, which powers the back line of redstone for the bottom sticky pistons. And then 2 ticks later, these torches will alternate and power the top row of redstone for the back pistons. And what that leaves us with now is that anytime we have any blocks placed up here, they'll get pulled down and pushed out real quick, allowing a new cobblestone to form up above. And eventually get broken up here. And that's pretty much the redstone of this farm done. Now, the only thing left to do is to get some water over here, craft some iron bars for here, and we should be able to break a couple of ice blocks here. This should then push items off into this run here. I'll let this water flow off to the end too here. And for a temporary item collection, I think that'll do. Now we'll just waterlog the leaves over here. And if we place our lava down here, should generate all our cobblestone. And I don't really trust that cobble's not going to get pushed up here, so we'll put some immovable blocks there for now. Now we turn it on again. There we go. Now if we go on back to the overworld and run it up the top one more time, everything breaks, and then this just starts pushing again automatically. And so far this has been with just me walking through the portal, but we already know another way to trigger that. And that brings us back to the portal up here. So we already have our chunk loader here, and I took the circuit off the side and moved it down to the bottom over here. This is basically the same comparator decay clock we talked about earlier, little off switch here, and our dropper over here. But we need some items to go in here too. And coming over here again, I think the easiest way we can do that is steal some iron blocks. We craft those blocks into ingots, we get a lot more. And if we craft all these into nuggets, that should be 9 stacks. That should work for now. So if we turn this on, the comparators will slowly decay down, and every 8 seconds, this torch should turn on and trigger the dropper. And it does. So with the chunk loader here, and the dropper clock over here, this should be everything on the overworld side. If we go back through, these blocks should automatically be breaking. And then when we see one come through again, everything breaks again. Okay, that's actually working really well. Alright, so I've been watching this for a second, and it looks like every time we get to the 3rd or 4th row here, the little iron nugget comes through, and that's triggering the block breaking. And with the chunks in the overworld loaded, it's just going to keep doing this without the player here at all. And just from testing there, yep, I already got 10.5 stacks of cobblestone. So far, it seems like the end portal mechanics on a cobblestone farm are working way better than I expected. And I'm really starting to think that the bottleneck here is actually item handling. Doing some quick math, if we fully filled this area, the 5x5x3 spawn pad, that's 75 blocks that we get every time one item comes through. And with an iron nugget coming in every 8 seconds, if this was completely full, that's almost 10 items a second we have to handle. So at max capacity, this is almost 3 times hopper speed. And while we probably could just put a 2 times hopper speed collection system here, this is a little inconvenient. I don't think I'm going to want to make a trip to the end every time I need some cobblestone. Plus, the cobblestone farm here is really just a prototype. Maybe we feed a tree farm into this, or some other kind of block producing farm. This is more of just an idea at this point. A placeholder for what else we could do out here. And with all those different types of items, I don't want to do this with just one double chest. So to get around all that, I got one more portal trick today. And that actually involves this portal right over here. So when a player goes through the return portal here in the end, they'll go back to their spawn point, which for me is the bed I last slept in. But last I checked, items don't have a spawn point. So let me see what I have on me. If I take this end stone and throw those 2 pieces through the portal, I'll throw all of it. If I jump through the portal, I'm going back to my bed right here. But there's no end stone here, so where did it go? And that's because while I go back to my spawn point, the items don't. But who said it was just items that behave strangely like this? Actually, it's any non-player entity, which would involve these Endermen, if any of them decided to jump through the portal. And I wonder if that's how they get to the overworld in the first place. And that kind of gets me to what I'm talking about here. So if we throw an ender pearl through, well, we're just going to go to spawn. But more importantly, so did our end stone. And this is kind of what I'm thinking we can do. So by using these end portal mechanics, we can do so much more than just breaking blocks automatically in the end. We can bring them back to spawn automatically too. And with our industrial area out over here, we can feed these items directly into it as well. With all these mechanics paired together, we can make some really cool automated systems out here. And I'm super excited for it. but unfortunately the industrial area is going to have to wait just a little bit longer. Unfortunately, that's all the time I got for this one. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you all for watching. If you got any ideas yourself on how we can pair these systems together and what we can do out here for our industrial area, please leave a comment and let me know. But until next time, take care everyone. See you then. You see, whenever a player goes through the return portal here, they go back to their... Hey, I knew that was going to happen. Come on.